Probably on the west end of Crestview, it's 5 o'clock.
That's right.
5 o'clock.
5 o'clock somewhere.
On the west end of Crestview, yeah.
East End.
I'll make a song call.
I was there before.
That's right.
No, it's probably on the
You're
east side.
I got 5 o'clock now.
Gets there.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to our CRA meeting for the month of July. And if you'd stand, Mr. Gottney is going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Make note that we have one commissioner absent, and that's Dr. LaRose. Everybody else is here. Everybody else is here, so that's good. We have a quorum, and first item of business is the approval of the CRA minutes from the June 11th, 2018 meeting. Anybody have any objections to the meeting minutes? If not, they're approved through unanimous consent. Anybody in the audience that would like to speak to the CRA Commission at this time? Anybody in the audience like to speak to us if you're not on the agenda? Okay, we're going to move on to old business. And our CRA director is going to talk about the Gateway Entrance Sign Project.
Good evening. Our Gateway Entrance Sign Project, based on y'all's request for additions and changes, have sent y'all the drawings with the updates on everything that we have. Is there any questions in regards to what you may have seen, especially we can start with the first one on the monument sign. We made the changes that y'all suggested, and we did in regards to the pavers that Councilmember Faircloth had mentioned. We were talking about that's more of a landscaping option, and then when we go to put in the flowers in the bed there, then we'll include the pavers. That's part of landscaping. That's not really part of the sign. So, any questions on the first one that y'all have? We made the changes. We've got Historic Downtown Crestview. It says, "Welcome to Historic Downtown Crestview," and established in 1916.
Well,
Yes, go ahead, Ms. Clark.
I do have a question on the arch.
We're going to get to the arch, yes, sir. Yeah, I figured there's going to be questions on the other two. This one's just the main, the one we were talking about. This one. Do you want to approve the whole thing as a packet, or would you like to approve each one? So the whole packet. Okay, all right.
We've been through this many times.
Yeah.
We ought to be able to
We should.
figure it out this time.
So if y'all don't have any questions on the monument sign, any additions, yes, sir?
Yeah, go ahead, Ms. Faircloth.
The first one.
The monument sign,
I
yes, sir.
guess that's it, it's not labeled. I call them logos on either side of the sign.
Yes, sir.
One is city seal, one's the CRA seal.
Yes, sir.
Are those going to be a bronze or aluminum or something permanent other than?
They're going to be a permanent logo made out of the best materials to make it.
Made out of what?
The best materials to make it permanent, make it stay, and those will be made out of bronze, aluminum, steel. I'm not exactly sure, but they will be permanent logos on there.
Okay, then it would be a material that didn't require maintenance.
Yeah, no, sir. It's going to be just like the lettering and stuff like that. Everything's going to be as low maintenance as possible. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Yeah, go ahead, Mr.
also, what you just mentioned about the logo, that looks to me to be approximately 12 inches overall. Do you have any kind of dimension given there?
Oh, you're talking about on the logos?
Yes.
All right, if you'll look, and I did your dimensions, like, see, the Crestview itself is 1 foot. Yes, so it's 12 inches.
That's
It
close
looks,
to 12 inches.
yes, sir. They're going to be about 1 foot.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Good, good.
Yeah. Yes, sir. 12 inches is still 1 foot. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay, you ready to move on?
Okay. In regards to the digital sign, the option 1 is the elevation sign that we had come to the conclusion that y'all would like. They added the directional down at the bottom. that was on option 3 up top. We put those at the bottom as requested. Anything else on that?
Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead, Mr. Fairclough.
I understood when we discussed this last time that the directional part of the sign would be underneath the digital sign.
It is?
It is?
Yes, sir, option
Oh,
1.
I see. Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
option
All
1,
right.
yes, sir.
I'm sorry.
That's-
I mistook that as some of the drawing labels.
Oh, no, well, I can see how that will be easily done, but no, that's your directional is down there.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, we good with that?
Mr. President,
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Scotty.
on these, are these removable signs on the bottom of the, or if you get a new
Well-
business in, you can change it out, or?
Those aren't announcing businesses. Those are
businesses,
announcing
just
permanent
city hall.
City
locations
hall?
downtown.
Downtown.
The digital sign is going to be announcing the businesses and activities and things going on. That's why we have the digital. Those are permanent. Now, of course, yeah, if later we want to add more, we can, but we really kind of just wanted to do the basics down there, let people know where the basics are.
You good?
Yes, sir.
All right, move on.
Okay. The next one is the archway sign. Now, you've got 2 options on here. And the first one you're seeing is black writing on black decoration. The second one is the one I really want you to look at. And there's a picture after that you can see. The second one has gold writing on the black wrought iron decorated sign. Now, if you'll flip the page, the reason you can't tell how pretty that is, but if you'll flip the page, they got a picture of what it would look like. And as you can see, the gold lettering there on the black railing, that's how it's going to look. That's how it's going to stand out. The picture, the drawing doesn't show how it can stand out because it's in gold. And it's that second one in gold writing that, you know, I would like for y'all to approve, but if you'd rather just go the black on black, we can, but I thought the gold looked better. And another thing on that sign, if you'll flip the page again, and you'll see a brick wall. Below that brick wall is a concrete block that is actually white concrete blocks that are textured. And those are not, you're wanting something that is easily or sturdy, okay? And in the process, we talked about stucco, but this is actually more sturdy. These are actually concrete blocks with a texture on them, and they're white. They're not painted white, they're dyed white. The blocks themselves are dyed white. Those would be on the bottom of the gateway, the arch sign. That would be down there at the bottom where it's white, would be those concrete blocks. It's very, very low maintenance, very sturdy product. And that's what we were proposing for the bottom.
Mr. Scotty, go ahead.
Those don't hold up to a weed eater coming by there?
Oh, yes, sir.
Okay.
That's the purpose of them. They're not painted white. They're actually created to be white when they're made. And the edging is kind of a rough stucco looking edging, but it's actually the way the concrete blocks are made.
Ms. Fairclough, go ahead.
On the arch,
Yes, sir.
on the first page, we have welcome to, and then in the, I don't know, what do you call that, filigree or whatever?
And the,
Historic downtown Crestview, which is what I brought up at the last meeting, is if you're riding by 35, 40 miles an hour, that is totally illegible.
well, that's why we're going with the gold one.
But
yeah.
I'm not
sorry.
complaining about the color, I'm complaining about the size.
You want historic downtown Crestview to be bigger?
Well, I think it should be as big as the sign would accommodate.
And that can be done if y'all want
But
to.
you just try it, right around town, and when you're seeing some of these hand-printed homemade signs that are smaller than 6-inch letters and everything, you can't tell what it says.
No.
Well, and I understand that we could make them bigger, and that was the purpose of the gold. Will make it stand out better.
Well,
But yeah, I can tell to make them as big as we can so they won't be crunched. We got to
well,
make sure that
if you'll notice in your color photograph here,
yes, sir.
those letters are tall but thin.
Okay,
And so that archway would accommodate all those letters on there if they were taller, but you can keep them just about the same width, like these,
yeah.
Roder or
Yeah.
whatever that is.
And I can tell them that, because we still have some room on the edge, on the sides. And I can just tell them to make them thin and tall like the ones on there, and then make them as tall as we can.
Yeah, you don't have to put a square there and then fill it up with a letter. You can make it a rectangle and fill it up with a letter.
All right. I can get her to make them bigger. Like I said, I can tell her to make them bigger and make them fit in there.
Just as long as it's legible.
And when we get to that, we can go ahead and get started on this, and when we get to that part of it, I can bring you the mock-up on that. On the actual size of the lettering
Okay, so
and visual.
then, Mr. Chairman, did we decide on which one of
Nope.
those?
Nope,
Yeah.
Okay.
that's up for discussion. You got the floor, Mr. Faircloth, give us your opinion.
Oh, I'm done, thank you.
No, give us your opinion on which one.
Oh,
Gold or black?
well, the second one just says welcome to. We don't know what we're welcome to.
It's because it's in gold underneath and you can't see it, and that's why she did the picture to show that it will show up. In the drawing, it was impossible to see. You'll see there's little gold stuff there, but you can't read it.
Well, it looks like a gold railroad track.
No, it's actually writing. It's just the way the drawing is. You can't see it. That's why they put the picture next to it, behind it, so you can see how it would look. Because in the drawing, it couldn't come out because the gold didn't show up as well as the black did.
If it doesn't come out in this drawing, it's not gonna look much better on the street.
Well, yes, sir. It's going to look like this second page right here. See how that shows up? That's why she put that, to show that that's how it's going to show up. It's going to be a lot brighter. The gold against the black will show up a whole lot better than the black on black. That's why they wanted to present that.
Okay. To answer the chairman's question, the first one is my preference.
Okay, Mr. Godney, what do you think?
I like the gold.
You like to go, Mr. Hayes,
Gold.
Mr. Blocker?
No. I consulted with 3 different sign companies out of state. They said the most legible sign is black on white, period.
So white lettering.
What's the background gonna be on option one?
It's black. The backgrounds, all of them are black. All the
Black on black
decorative
wouldn't
is
do it.
black. So it'd either be
Oh,
black on black or gold on black. Now, if y'all want to change it to white on black, like I said, I'll have to talk to them about the material for that. I'm guessing it'd be the same material. It would just be white.
What, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, go ahead.
The second one would be my choice if we're going to make them larger letters.
Yes,
like
sir.
we discussed.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll make them larger, make them fit better, and make it take up and go from one end to the other in historic and make the lettering bigger.
Mr. Clark, what do you think? Which option?
I prefer the gold.
Okay.
One question on that. Are we talking gold or brass or?
The material is like the wrought-iron material. It's infused gold coloring in the metal. Is what it is. It's not painted or anything like that. It's infused gold in the metal. Easy maintenance.
It would need to be powder coated, clear, cured over finished product to finish it so that you would seal it so that it doesn't dull out, oxidize.
Okay, and now, in all honesty, I think all the wrought iron work, all that's going to be that way, but I will clarify that, make sure it's done that way. Excuse me, let me get a pen. I've already made notes, but that's not right.
Commissioner Boyle, would you weigh in on this, please?
Thank you, sir. I think the gold probably has a very traditional look to it. You want to, I think white would probably be more visible. I certainly would agree with that, Commissioner Blocker, but I do think that there's probably a balance between, greatest visibility and something that still meets the character of the district that you're trying to highlight. I think probably the gold comes about as close as you'll get to doing that. You want to be careful not to have a theme park look, so you kind of got to balance what what your color scheme looks like, but to me, the gold seems like a good fit and tends to be offset nicely by the black.
What I'm hearing, Lisa, is that most of us are in accord that we would like to go with the second option, which is the gold, but when we get the motion, we need to make it contingent upon you bringing back definition of what the letter's gonna look like. Because
Sure.
I don't think we can find that tonight, exactly how high they're gonna be.
Yeah. I will get you those definite
Right.
at that time, before we actually build it.
All right. Any more discussion on the signs?
Now, are y'all okay with the concrete blocks that I had mentioned at the bottom with the decorative, the white blocking is very sturdy, and like I said, this put on a lot of bottom of buildings and things like that, like this building here, that brick wall. That's why they put it at the bottom, because it's very sturdy, protected material.
All right, we need to move ahead. We've done this, hung up on this quite a while. Can I get a motion to move ahead with the designs? The only stipulation being that we don't finalize the letters until we meet again on that.
Yes, sir.
But we know what the design's going to be. Can I get
I'll make-
action, please?
I'll make a motion,
Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Gardner.
make the motion that we do that with the contingency to bring back.
The lettering.
Okay, the motion is going ahead with the designs and come back on the lettering for the archway.
Second.
We got a motion second. Any more discussion?
Yes, Mr. President.
Yes, go ahead, Ms. Walker.
Let's determine the color of that infrastructure background where that sign's going.
You're talking about which one now, the archway?
Archway.
Yeah.
The background's black.
We had already determined that last time. It was gonna be black.
I think that's the wrong thing, black,
Okay.
my opinion.
All right, that's noted, Mr. Walker. Any other discussion? All those in favor of going ahead, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? You can vote either way, right? Well, you need to vote one way or the other.
I said no.
I asked you if you voted. Okay. So we have, how many people we have here? 3, 6. We have 5 yeas and 1 nay. The motion carries.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Blocker, did you?
Turn your hearing aid up.
Let's go get it. It's in the car. You had a comment?
yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, I wanted to let y'all wrap that up first. I did just want to offer a brief update. I do have via email conceptual approval from the sheriff's office on making utilization of that corner parcel, obviously subject to working the details out. And so if with permission of the CRA's attorney, I'll stay a minute or so after the meeting tonight and kind of just talk on coordinating that issue so that we can start to line out how the actual legal framework will work, but the sheriff's office has agreed that we can come up with an approach that will allow for the utilization of that corner parcel for the large sign. And I hope to have an agenda item next week for consideration by the full commission with regard to the funding cooperation from the county. So I'll keep you posted on that, hopefully at the next meeting.
You bring any bricks with you?
No, I did not. I apologize. In fact, I'm waiting on an answer back on that count. I think they were still hesitant to give a count as they were kind of moving through the final bits of
Just
construction.
kidding.
Yes, sir.
But
Next month.
We do appreciate you doing that. I really do appreciate that.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
that
go ahead,
that
Mr. Fair.
brings up a question in my mind. Is the sheriff's office going to absorb the electricity it would take to operate that sign, or are we going to put a separate meter on it and charge it to the CRA?
Haven't gotten that far with it, sir, but I certainly will. There may be a possibility to branch it off of the existing courthouse infrastructure. I think if so, that's certainly something we could look at. But I think we've got multiple options. If we can keep it away from having to do a separate meter, it would save a little bit. Certainly would think would be preferable. But I'll try and work that issue for us as well.
Okay, thank you.
Good discussion. Okay, Bush House.
All right, as y'all know, we did present a grant application in. Which is typical, they do send back, and the architect for the Florida Department that was of Historical Resources, they requested some more information, and she had asked, since she noticed how old the building was, and in the scope of work, it said that we were going to be chipping off paint. And then, of course, that drew a flag that could be lead-based paint. So I went and did a test on it, and it is lead-based paint. So with that being said, we would have to do a lead abatement prior to doing any work. That cost a lot of money, so they asked me to do an amendment to the grant. And what we had to do, and on y'all see on the sheet, is that we had to move the abatement up first and make that first priority on the costs. And the architecture, this piece of paper I gave you is my answer to what they requested. If you want me to read it, all the answers to you, I will, and I'll go over that with you. But the main thing is to let y'all know we're having to do a lead abatement procedures first before we can do any work on the building if we get the grant. That's contingent on getting the grant, so I put that in there. With that being said, that's going to, of course, lower what we can do on the building, and we'll just do what we can with the money left over and the grant we receive. But the first two priorities is the lead abatement and then the foundation. And in the foundation, they require that we have an architect, a structural and engineering architect, and get them to professionally look at that and say what needs to be done. So that I'm going to probably, it's going to, how the finances go, we might ask to do that prior to the grant. If they award us the grant, which we should know in September, we won't get the money until July 1st of 2019. During that time span, we can go ahead and pay for the architectural engineering designs and evaluation on the building, but those fees would be separate and would not go toward our matching. But that would get us ready, so when we do get the money, we're ready to move forward with the lead abatement and everything else that's in there. Or we can just wait and use the money that we get from the grant for the architectural structure. I've already talked to Poly Engineering, they can do that. So we already have a contract with them on that. But we don't know what the price will be yet. That will be down the road. If we get the grant, we're going to have different options. And I just wanted y'all to know where we
All right,
stood on it.
comments, questions?
Mr. President.
Go ahead, Mr.
I
Hayes.
have one question. I
Go ahead.
assume that you probably haven't looked in that yet, because it's not on here, so.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
For the lead abatement,
Mhm.
anybody have an estimate? I don't know anything about removing lead. Mr. Blanca or maybe somebody
You
else
might
has
know.
dealt with that, or you might have inquired to a price on an estimate on that. I don't know.
I was on the phone with Chuck at Powell, and we both kind of looked at it, and he said, you know, you're looking around 10,000 to do the lead abatement.
Okay.
And that was an estimate. It's just going to, they've got to tint the building from what I
No,
understand. Yeah.
that's reasonable.
So, yeah.
Okay. That was my only
It
question.
makes sense if we would make that the number one priority.
Yeah.
Okay.
But the paint's chipping off, and it's really a hazard since it's lead-based and the paint is chipping off. That's why it became an issue when they looked at it. So we had to make an adjustment on it.
All right? Okay.
I'm done.
All right. This time I want to call Mr. Paul Lowry up for the Main Street Program Plan. And Paul, feel free to bring up any reinforcements you want to bring up with you if they want to.
Thank you.
Just identify yourself if you would.
I will. My name is Paul Lowry, and I am at 386 North Main Street, and also I serve as the president for the Main Street Crestview Association, and I'm here on behalf of the association this evening. I appreciate you giving us the opportunity this evening. If you'll bear with me, I want to read my remarks because this is a very important issue for us with this, discussing the contract. And so I'll just read my prepared remarks, and then Ms. Sandra will come up and she has some information to pass on as well. I'm going to be at kind of the treetop level discussion, and then she'll come in and get down in the weeds a little bit, give you a little more details. So we're here to make an initial presentation to you concerning renewal of the contract for services between the CRA and the Main Street Crestview Association, or MSCA. This contract was established as an initial 3-year contract and is nearing termination at the end of September. Through the partnership and support of the city and CRA, the MSCA has been able to bring a great deal of foot traffic and awareness to our historic downtown.
with events such as the Fall Festival, Christmas Parade, and soon to be additional future events. The level of success could not and would not have been able to be achieved without the aforementioned contract for services monetary support, the many volunteer hours, and the dedicated time spent by our program manager in coordinating and choreographing these events. I could tell you lots of great things about our program manager, but what we're here to accomplish is, we're talking about a position and a contract, so not about the individual tonight. We have plans to bring additional annual events to our historic downtown, but we are at an apex for the program manager's abilities at this point as a part-time employee for the MSCA. To bring the kind of events and activities our city desperately needs, our program manager must be a full-time employee. When we initially hired our program manager, the intentions were to reach the point of making a position a full-time position and giving the person the director's title. As you know, the director's title has been a dual hat position for the CRA director / Main Street director. As part of our proposal this evening, the MSCA board has agreed to reclaim the director position to have a full-time director, therefore removing that title from the CRA director. I believe this will require an amendment to the CRA director's contract to make that change for the CRA. As part of this change, the MSCA will put in place the CRA director as an ex officio member for the board of directors for the Main Street Association. Many benefits come from this change. MSCA will have a dedicated full-time director. The CRA director will not have to contend with MSCA duties and be able to focus solely on CRA duties. And the expenses for travel, training, manpower, any other expenses currently incurred by the CRA director for Main Street issues would be eliminated, and the Main Street director would take on some marketing responsibilities for the CRA. The Main Street or MSCA's focus is to get over the hump of just providing a fall festival and Christmas parade and an occasional small event that we're already are taking shape. That one that you saw this year was our Strawberry Festival. I'm not going to belabor any of the setbacks and difficulties and challenges the organization's had since its inception. I only want to focus on moving forward. In moving forward, making the change for our director to be a full-time director, bringing new events and activities to downtown, we will need to ask for a renewal of continued commitment support from the CRA by way of a new contract for services. In the new contract, we will ask for an additional funding level as we are making arrangements to add an important event that is a huge give back to our men and women in military uniform. The MARC, Military Appreciation Recognition Celebration Committee, as you know, used to put on the military appreciation event, and since the head person for that, Mr. Bob Lynn, since his passing, they have dropped putting on that event. And the MSCA is going to pick up the mantle for this and providing the event, moving the location to downtown. MSCA will pick up, in discussions with members of that committee, they were spending approximately $7,000 per year to put on that event, so if you would keep that in mind. Crestview absolutely should continue this tradition, and MSCA is making the efforts to do so. The original contract was established with a goal in mind for the CRA to see a benefit to the economic development of our downtown CRA business district with monetary skin in the game. And by doing so, there is a return in marketing, foot traffic to support businesses, awareness of what downtown has to offer, bringing thousands of tax-paying citizens to downtown, and making the historic downtown a destination, thus promoting improvements, eliminating blight, enticing new businesses, and business sustainability. This sustainability also means additional jobs. When the businesses are successful, they do add the jobs. This is our focus for the MSCA. We aren't here just looking for a handout. This is a business deal and an investment into Crestviews downtown. I'm not an idle Main Street Board member myself. I have a lot of money of my own and time spent with the organization in downtown, as do some of our other members, such as our Vice President, Mike Carroll, with Hope City Smokehouse, and our Treasurer, Bill Tonin, with Casbah Coffee. As you know, both of those have spent a lot of money in our downtown. This is a team of professionals and business owners who truly have a stake in MSCA's success. Our partnership with the CRA only solidifies this. This type of partnership as an investment to quality of life is a valuable commodity for businesses looking to open up shop in our downtown. Businesses want to know that you are the stakeholders as well as they are and are providing quality of life before they invest. The 4th of July fireworks is certainly a quality of life investment. You as commissioners and councilmen, you understand that bringing that quality of life is important, and it's an expensive task to undertake, and for an amount of about 30 minutes of oohs and ahs. Well, our goal for the MSCA is to provide oohs and ahs year round. So with the events and things that we can bring to the table. We're currently working with Ms. Burleson on the details of services for the contract and also the dollar amount of the contract. I believe to be presented at our next meeting, our next CRA meeting in August. I would like to turn the podium over to Ms. Sandra Wilson for additional comments, and then we'll open it up for questions.
Good evening. My name is Sandra Wilson. I'm the program manager for Main Street currently. I just wanted to give a few details about the events and the things that I've learned. I think it's pretty much exactly a year now that I've been with Main Street, and when I came on board, there was no turnover time, so I had to pick up a lot of pieces of the puzzles by myself and was kind of tossed into the Fall Festival and the Christmas Parade. We were able to actually establish a rather new event with the Strawberry Festival, which was really successful. For us to do this for the very first time, we advertised on Facebook and we reached over 25,000 people just through that advertising. The moment I put up the strawberry signs, I had phone calls saying, I saw your sign, it looks amazing. And with 37 vendors, we were able to fill up Woodruff Avenue. The scavenger hunt that took place during the event sent people all over Main Street and go into different businesses. And Gordon Martial Arts had an event at the same time, which really helped move traffic along. And a lot of the business owners told me afterwards, too, that they were slammed with business, especially the restaurants. Tom, Main Street, the ice cream place, he had the line going out the door. And that's what we are here for, is to create those kind of events. With 36 vendors, every single vendor at that event was tremendously happy. And I've done a lot of events in the city, and I've never had where every single vendor told me I sold out completely, I had to go back and get more. To see so many happy vendors, and they want me to make sure I invite them for next year again. So that event in itself was a huge success, which brings me to the volunteers that we always have to gather for this kind of event. Me being new on board with Main Street, I had to kind of gather a new crowd, which we were able to do. And you can look at about 150 to 250 hours of volunteer work for each event. It's a little bit more for the Christmas parade because I try to get more people, making sure everything is safe and sound. But those volunteers, I want to make sure that we show our appreciation to them as well. That's why we appreciated them at a meeting here. And they have guaranteed and promised to help us with future events, because I told them, I said, I'm dreaming big, I'd like to introduce more, and they are on board. With the military appreciation event, that's really close to my heart. My husband is military, 21 years in the Air Force. He's retiring really soon. But I think as a city, it behooves us to have such an event. We have such a large military crowd, and it's growing daily, really. I live in that neighborhood. I know the families that are moving up here. and you get more house for your money. It's a nice drive now that some parts have been expanded. So I think a military appreciation event is the right way to go as a second event for us to have in the springtime. I'm trying to balance it out with the Strawberry Festival, military appreciation in the spring, Fall Festival and Christmas Parade in the later end of the year. That way it gives me kind of time to recover from each event and make sure I catch up with the rest of those things. Which brings me to coming on full-time. Being part-time really allows me to only focus on those events because I work pretty much full-time, 40 to 50 hours for each event. I'm just kind of a stickler. I want to make sure everything goes well. I want to make sure my volunteers are prepared and know what's going on. And so now that they upped my hours already a little bit, I was able to focus more on the economic development of Main Street. And I actually had 2 interns from Career Source call all the downtown businesses. Now, unfortunately, some of the business owners thought we were trying to sell something, which was not the case. But we created a downtown directory. It's already on the website. I also emailed all the business owners and told them that this is what we're doing. The goal at this point is to have actually a map, a printed out brochure that will show everybody all the things that we have downtown. I have a very poor sample of it. It would be a fold-out kind of like this. You have a map of Main Street, Wilson, the little avenues on the side, and I'm including all the businesses downtown, even the ones that are on Furden, like Jimmy Lundy's. Yes, and I've talked to several of them already, and they were excited about it. I would hand these out to all the hotels to make sure that people that visit know what we have to offer, highlight our restaurants and retail businesses, obviously. So that would be something that we can put together like this. It would be at no cost to our business owners at this point. But I think we have enough to offer. We found out that we have over 130 retail businesses downtown, spaces. 116, I believe, are occupied, actually. A lot of people were completely surprised to find out those numbers. For those interns that were able to get an answer from the business owners, we were able to find out how many employees do you have as well, just so we could kind of see how many people do work in our downtown. I'm not complete with those numbers yet, but I would like to have a statistic to show what's going on here and what we have going on in our downtown. Which brings me to another part was with this directory, once I published it and I told people that the website traffic that I've created with this publication was immense too. I already had people call me about the vacant lots that we even have listed on our website and asked, is this available? And I'm like, I'm not the realtor, I can't give you that information, but for the ones that I knew, I tried to give a phone number or give as much detail as I could. Which is a part that I would like to support more as well. If I have the info, I'd be happy to give that out. We've upped our game with the Facebook account and made sure that we advertise and promote everything that's going on, especially the things that are going on in City Hall as well. We're not just about the businesses, but letting Crestview know politically, get involved here, come to this town hall meeting, attend these meetings, come to the board meetings. So we are using that to really inform a lot of people, and the response has been great. One of the things I'm not quite sure where that ever came from was the independent aspect of Main Street. When I came on board, I heard a lot of times Main Street has to become independent. I go to the conferences, and I actually had just had a survey done with the Florida Main Street, and I asked them for preliminary numbers. They're not finished yet, but they did a survey with all the Main Streets in Florida that are registered and accredited through them. Over 90% are either funded by a city or by city and CRA. So we're not asking for a unique situation here. My hope would be with introducing new events that we will eventually grow our budget and being able to do more things. We have, like I said, the military appreciation, but I've already talked to different people about doing these small pocket events. I grew up in Germany, so people have been asking me for years when I will bring an Oktoberfest. So if I can find somebody to work with, I'll definitely would love to bring an Oktoberfest. I have a supplier for German sausages and other fun things, so I'd love to bring another Oktoberfest into Crestview. I actually threw 2 Oktoberfests in the Middle East and had sausages and beer flown in from Dubai, and it was a huge hit, so I think we can pull it off here in Crestview. I love working with the CRA. Elisa and I have a very good rapport. I want to help her, especially for the marketing aspect and the way we looked at the funds and how to move them. I would be happy to manage the electronic billboard and help promote everything that goes on in the downtown area. And whatever else she comes up with. I know she did a Christmas thing to promote shopping downtown. We will announce the Christmas parade theme here really soon. But I want you to know that me personally, I'm very invested in Crestview. My husband's military, he's retiring. We want to stay here. We moved here intentionally. We want our kids to grow up here. I foresee great things for Crestview. Our downtown has a prime location. I'm so excited about those new gateway signs. And I think with the courthouse hopefully opening up very, very soon, we'll be able to draw a lot of traffic. We are also hosting the quarterly Main Street meeting ourselves here in November. So I'm hoping to bring in those people from other main streets to show off our downtown. So hopefully the courthouse will be open up by then so we can give a tour. But we really want to put Crestview on the map, and we love your support, obviously.
See why we love her so much? Mr.
Yeah, Mr. Carroll has.
Mr. Carroll's gonna come up and
Give me
make
a
a
yellow
couple
thing
comments.
he didn't even need to do.
Can I use your notes? You didn't use them.
Mike Carroll, I'm the owner of Hub City Smokehouse Grill, 168 South Main Street. I just wanted to reinforce, you could see by the passion in her voice and telling us what the things that she's been doing. I realize this contract's about a position, not necessarily about the person. But I want you to know that being a business on Main Street, to have someone like Sandra to carry that flag for Main Street is overwhelming. That's one of the reasons why I've been on and off the board of Main Street for a couple of years. I've been an active member and sometimes inactive member, only because it seemed like it was going nowhere. Well, now I'm the vice president this year, and I'm okay with that, Paul. You can stay president. But I'm going to take a much more active role in Main Street because of the enthusiasm that Sandra brings to the association. So you see the funds that we're putting in. I've got all kinds of plans for things to do for Main Street, and especially on the south side of the tracks. I know that's always a big joke, but we're going to do our block parties again, starting up probably next month. I'm going to get with the mayor and see about setting all that up. And that's going to be in conjunction with some of the stuff that Main Street's doing. They're going to help me and try to turn this into a full Main Street event, not just a block party, but a Main Street party. You look at the new event, the military appreciation. That's a big event. It's been held at Spanish Trail. We're bringing back to Main Street. We have our hay bale thing we're going to have with the Fall Festival. The Rotary Club is going to be sponsoring that again. And right now, I believe we're going to have about 30 hay bales out there this year. So it seems like we have this ball rolling, and I don't want to see us go back. I want to do what we got to do, spend a few bucks, whatever we got to do, to keep this ball rolling on Main Street. It's so important. I mean, Main Street's where I want to be. I've got no intentions of going anywhere else. Matter of fact, I'm looking for a second location on Main Street with a whole different style restaurant. And as soon as something pops up that's reasonable, I'm going to jump right on it because I want to be on Main Street, and I'm going to put my dollars on Main Street. So keep that in mind. We'll come to you next month with a new contract. If you have any questions, feel free to come by the restaurant. I'll give you what my thoughts are about the direction that Main Street's going. Thank you.
Thank you. Paul, if you'd come back up, please. As Paul said, they're not bringing us a contract tonight. They're kind of give us an overview of what they're going to be bringing next month, so we'll know what to expect and maybe prepare any questions we might have. But at this time, if anybody has any comments or questions for Mr. Lowry, please.
And I just let you know, I'm more than willing, myself and Sandra are more than willing to come speak one-on-one with any of you.
Anybody have any comments or questions? Mr. Godney, go ahead.
I'll start with the first comment. I thought you were supposed to be reporting to the CRA every 3 months, and I've been on this board for that long, 3 times, and I haven't seen no report from Main Street yet.
I didn't know they were supposed to do it every 3 months, but we are going to be starting that.
Mr. Brocker started that.
I'm not aware that that was a mandatory, but we had already discussed that, and that's part of the agreement, that we will be doing quarterly reports. They'll be giving me quarterly reports, and I will be giving to y'all. We've already discussed doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Good point, Mr. Godney. Anybody else? Mr. Hayes?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I love what I'm hearing. I'm always one of those forward thinkers. I talked with our CRA director that I want to see something every month in Crestview, and
That's our goal.
other cities have it. I know you have to invest money in different things, and me personally, I'd be willing to look at your contract when it comes back and at least probably look at it. Hopefully, it's reasonable and go for at least for 1 year or 2 years. That's my comment. I love it, and P. Gates.
Any other comments, questions?
Yeah.
Mr. Fairclough, go ahead. You're next.
I'll try to be brief because I know we're going to run out of time.
Go ahead.
I would like to see, this lady's got it together, best I can tell.
Absolutely.
And I think she's the sparkler that Crestview has needed. Now, that said, when I was a kid, the biggest event in Okaloosa County was the Spanish Trail Festival. We had softball tournaments, we had track meets, we had a big ball dance, just all kinds of stuff all week long. And over the years, back then, the JCs put it together. And for some reason, they just kind of dissolved and it got weaker and weaker and weaker. And then for several years, we didn't even have one. I would like to see Main Street take that over and just see how big we could make it.
Well, the issue with that is it's a long way from Main Street and downtown, which is where our home is and what we're here to provide.
Well, the old Spanish
Yes.
Trail is Highway 90.
Right.
Well, it's something that we could certainly look into as far as, maybe having a curve in the road and making it through Main Street. We can look into some of the Spanish Trail Festival activities and see if it's something
Well,
that
I
we
was
can do.
thinking, of course, maybe I was looking too broad a picture, that Main Street basically, or the CRA was, Main Street was basically the CRA, which is side streets also. But
And it is.
If it's just specifically Main Street, then I could see where the,
Well, it's
Best-
more to the downtown business district.
okay. Thank you.
Mr. Blocker.
Paul, currently, you are being funded by the CRA at what volume of money do you get annually?
Right now, the contract, it was for 3 years for $25,000 a year.
And you mentioned the additional funding. How many million of dollars are you looking for this additional funding?
At this point, we're only talking
$90 million.
$90 million. Yeah. 9,000 additional dollars is what we have that we're looking at right now.
As long as you can utilize it and sell it to the public, I'm for it 100%. But you people have been sleeping too long. It's time to wake up.
We have the best board that we have had since I've been a part of Main Street. We have everybody that's interested, invested, and the folks that show up and help us at our events. We've had members in the past that were there in member only, to show up and say I do I agree with a motion from time to time. And we're finally getting some traction with some really interested members. And not just our board members, but some of the Main Street members are showing up to our meetings, and they are also being volunteers in some of our programs and committees.
Well, I've been asked several times in different remote places, Mr. Blocker, what kind of events do y'all have in the hub city? What can I tell them?
And again,
Disappointing.
it has all boiled down to the number one issue is not having that linchpin of a full-time director to lead the efforts. Just as you're pursuing the idea of a city manager, of a single person to really lead the way, we're in a similar situation where we really need to have that person to help us get there. Every other successful Main Street has that full-time director.
Okay, that's all I have, Mr. President.
Mr. Clark, have anything? Commissioner?
Thank you, sir. Just briefly, a bit of perspective I think I have on this issue. I've served on the Main Street Crestview Association's board as a new young business owner. When I came to the downtown district, bought a building and renovated it, and I think it's certainly important to look forward. I think that's what Mr. Lowry said in his opening comments. I think you have kind of swings, you have ups and downs with the life cycle of an organization. I think you mentioned the JCs, which is an organization that is no more. Again, that life cycle of an organization. I think for a while with Main Street, we had a caretaker organization in place, and so I don't fault those folks for a moment. Frankly, the folks who own businesses and buildings downtown were largely checked out from the association, and so you had a group of folks who did not have the full connectivity with the district, but they were still in and trying to do a good thing, and it was effectively serving as a community organization, hosting the Christmas party and hosting the fall festival, and making sure those things continued to happen. And so I think I think anybody needs to cast stones. I think they helped carry that organization through, but what you did not have is the folks that had the vested business and ownership interest downtown that were engaged in that organization. So I think for the first time, what we're seeing in a long time are those folks. They now make up the leadership, and they're here tonight, and I think that they do have a good advocate now that they want to lead with. And I think it appears to me you have very good synergy between your CRA director and their I think hopeful Main Street director, and they cover two very different areas if you think about it. I mean, the CRA needs to be thinking on kind of these big picture, long-term infrastructure, structural changes to invest in the district to make it a successful place that people want to come. It's the Main Street organization's job, responsibility then to leverage those assets that you're creating for them, and it looks like that relationship is forming up really well, so I look forward to next month when that contract is here. I think it's absolutely going to be worth giving them that opportunity to take the ball and run with it. So, well done.
Mr. Godney, we can kind of wrap it up here if we would.
Okay, I just have another one question.
Yes, sir.
Is all this money going for salary?
No, sir.
Okay, that's what my question. What part is going for salary and the other?
Um,
Are you gonna bring this back to me next month? I'm not in no hurry.
We'll bring the details of that back next month, but it is not all going for salary.
I think that's really the issue, is that we don't need to get in the weeds of the contract until the contract comes up next month. But let me wrap it up by saying that, like we said, we have ebbs and tides. We've had our ebbs and tides here on the CRA, and so we see the same reflection in Main Street. I will tell you, I attend all the meetings, and I see the upswing there. I see the involvement that maybe wasn't there a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, whatever. So, thank you for coming, Paul, and we'll see you next month.
All right, we'll be here.
The next issue I'm going to address as succinctly as possible, because, last month when we approved the contract with the CRA director, we voted to leave the CRA director underneath growth management until further notice. I will tell you that I think till further notice should be sooner than later.
Yes.
And that is, we were kind of presented with a conundrum, and that is, do we leave things the way they were, or do we change things without knowing what the alternative might be? And I know I wasn't comfortable with change without knowing what the alternative would be, and so I voted to leave things as they were, at least temporarily. Well, since then, I met with the CRA director, the CRA administrator, the CRA attorney, and the city clerk, and we have all come to an agreement that it would not be bad to move the CRA director in a different position. Actually, in a different person as a CRA administrator. Now, I'll be the first one to tell you that I'm not a big fan of moving individuals because of personalities. It should be done on function. Well, I will tell you, this function existed before, and it seemed to have worked okay. And secondly, we don't need, as an organization, we don't need to have friction in our public meetings. As your chair, I want to make sure we're going through the process and we get through it as quickly as possible without having all kinds of hurt feelings and those kind of things. And so with the contract coming up for 2 years, which we already approved, I'm going to ask my fellow commissioners to support me when I recommend that we move the CRA director underneath the city clerk. City clerk has agreed to it. And here's the thing that was a little unique, sitting down with the CRA director and CRA administrator. It might have been hard to figure out last month. They really agreed with each other. It was hard to really determine that, but they agreed with each other. One was wanted out of the position, and the other one didn't really want that connection anymore. And if we leave it that way, we're setting ourselves up for 2 more years of friction, basically. And two of you recognize that. I recognized it, but I wasn't willing to vote without an alternative. And so with the CRA attorney saying that this move is legal, we can do it. The only thing the growth management director asked us if we go ahead and give her a space back, if we move the CRA director, which we can do. The city attorney's already found the location. And but the Main Street director, we wouldn't throw her out. She wouldn't be homeless. she would get to stay there. But the CRA administrator would move closer to the CRA administrator, and at the same time would be looking for funding of about $2,500 in order to bring up a new office in a different section of the city. So having said that, I'll now open it up for comments or questions at me, for me. Yes, Mr. Gotti, you
I
first.
support your.
You what?
I will support it.
Okay.
I got a pot shot.
Yes, go ahead.
No, Mr. President, I think that's a wonderful idea. I support it.
I know you two supported it last meeting. Mr. Cox, what's your
I
spin on this?
concur.
Huh?
Yes.
Well, you guys make my job easy here.
You'll
Could I?
You'll look, Mr. Franklin.
Oh, he knows I support it.
Oh, yeah, he's smart.
Me and him did last time.
He whipped me on the way out last meeting. Right.
Do you need a motion for that?
Yes, I need a motion, and if you would state the motion to appoint the city clerk as the CRA administrator and allocate $2,500, a maximum of $2,500 for the new office setup.
Mr. President, I move to appoint the city clerk as the CRA administrator and allocate how many million?
$2,500.
$2,500 for office setup.
Second.
That's CRA funds. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Vote carries 6-0 with one absent. Okay. Next item is so,
Revised contract.
there's one section I just want to mention real quickly before we move on to the CRA attorney. And I brought this to the CRA director, and that is I've asked to have examined how much it would cost for the CRA to provide free Wi-Fi in the CRA area. And Thomas he's looking at that for us, our IT director. And the good news I got today was the meeting went very, very well with Cox, and they're looking at maybe working out a partnership with the city where they would even, they would use it, the Wi-Fi for advertising, and not charge us an ungodly sum. And so the numbers will come back in the next meeting. But what I'm looking for tonight is a consensus from my fellow commissioners to actually have the CRA go ahead and pursue this. And I just kind of had a brainstorm to do it and started contacting people. Is that something we want to pursue or not?
Yes.
Anybody object to it?
You know, if I may, the only thing I would add is that maybe at some point a discussion point for some Triumph funding, even through the county's local allocation that we're in control of. That kind of that notion of an innovation hub district with the FAMU school being here. I think there may be some opportunities to leverage if there's it's kind of that substantial investment initially to get the equipment set up. I think there may be some way to find a partnership there.
Thank you. We'll let you know once Lisa works the deal. While you're on the mic, though, Commissioner Boyle, would you give us an update on the Piggly Wiggly Park?
Yes, and the update is I've actually requested an update recently from our parks director and have been waiting on that back. Our last status had been sit in a hold position on moving forward with any construction until the courthouse was finished because that area had kind of become a needed staging area during the final.
That's whose equipment is there?
Yes.
Okay.
That had not been the original intention, but as they got moved into the site work aspect of finishing around the outside of the courthouse, they were having some constraints. And it was decided that we could make use of that site as a short-term staging area. That should be wrapping up within probably the next 2 to 3 weeks. Construction, the primary construction will be finished before the end of July. That was the latest update as of this past Friday, with a month, during the month of August, for kind of move in and kind of starting to let folks get the equipment in and set up. But construction proper will be wrapping up this month, and we'll be able to clear that site back out. I'll have a more firm update for you next
All right.
month.
All right, thank you. Dr. Leone, you have a report for us?
And just a question on 6C, did you move to approve the amended contract with the
Oh, yes, my bad. Sorry about that.
CRA director?
I asked Dr. Leone to prepare an amended revised contract if you all voted to move the CRA director under the city clerk. And so we have to vote on whether we're going to accept that revision. Can I get an action on that, please?
Mr. Chairman,
Stereo. Mr. Cox.
I move to approve the revised CRA director contract.
So second.
Motion second to approve the revised CRA director contract. It just merely identifies that move. Any discussion? All those in favor, aye. Aye. Those opposed? All right, thank you, Dr. Leone. You have anything else for us?
Just briefly on RE Development's repayment, the May payment was unsuccessful. However, the June payment, we got a double payment, which we will be receiving this
All right.
month, so we're good.
Good.
That's all I have, sir.
Checks in the mail. All right.
Mr. President,
Yes, go ahead, Mr.
we just bypassed it, but I like what our commissioner was saying and what they're saying about as far as the Wi-Fi. And not for discussion now, but something for us to consider is making downtown Wi-Fi compatible for our citizens. This is something for look for
No,
in
no,
the
that's
future.
what we just did.
Yeah.
Just did.
We said for her, but I'm talking about for the whole downtown area.
CRA. That's what she's doing.
Okay, I
They're gonna
misunderstood.
provide free Wi-Fi.
When they said, I
for
thought we was
CRA.
talking about just per building.
No,
That's what implications.
CRA area.
Okay, I'm good.
Yeah.
Let's move on.
Okay. My bad if I wanted to.
I have a question for Commissioner Boyle.
Yeah, go ahead.
If you will, sir, put on your county hat for a second. You mentioned, you mentioned maybe we could utilize Triumph funds for this. Do you think if the city put in for Triumph funds, it would dilute what we're already trying to get for the?
Yes, sir, and I may have misspoke. There's so many pots of money out there. I'm really thinking Restore Act, which would be, there's a $2 million per year allocation that the county has control over. It goes back to the original Transocean settlement. And those dollars are available and are relatively locally controlled, though it does have to go through a federal treasury approval process. And it would be those funds, I think, that would probably be prime. I do think you're correct. Triumph is probably looking a little bit bigger picture than that type of project, and you might risk some dilution, especially with our big ask on the table right now with regards to transportation. I concur. Yes, sir.
We haven't expended all the restore money yet?
We'll take it.
No, I mean, I'm just telling you, it was 2 years ago that we, never mind, we're not gonna go there. Okay, CRA Grant Review Board Report. I'm not sure, are you doing that, Teresa? Facade grants?
Mr. President,
Yes, go ahead.
if we might notify the citizens outside that we're gonna be delayed a little bit, it might be a good idea.
Oh, it's Councilman Hayes' fault.
Here. I thought I had one of these. This is a different one.
These aren't one version, oh, this is board updates. Oh, yeah, what is-
Okay. Gentlemen, as you know, the city council funds a board for you, the CRA Building Improvements Grant Review Board, and this is their report. We had a meeting and went over and reevaluated Terry Brackney's submittal. According to June, he had submitted in $3,760, of which the CRA would have been a 50-50 cost on that, would be $1,880. He added in his signage, which was $4,072, bringing it to a total of $7,835. The CRA would be responsible for $39,1750 if approved. This is the location of 196 North Main Street, if you don't remember, and it is going to have stucco trim on windows, replacing the storefront windows, and also a metal letter sign. It's in your book under as presented by Extreme Concepts. Your next application came from Krista McQueen. She is at 462 Main Street North. She had proposed a building sign, an outside bench, paint and labor for exterior window trim, and cleaning and pressure washing the sidewalk. Unfortunately, she's got a beautiful building there, and we have a picture included. Unfortunately, she had purchased the sign the day she had presented her application. The application does not allow for any pre-purchased signs. So they must wait, submit application, have it approved, and presented to the board prior to the installation of any of the facade improvements. So the only allowable pricing for her facade improvement would be, because the building sign was purchased ahead of time, the outside bench is not considered facade, as it had no connectivity to the building there or design. The painting and the labor for the exterior window trimming at $225 and the cleaning and pressure washing of the sidewalk and concrete were both viable options, which would have been a total of $450, which means our chart's in error. And the amount that the CRA is being requested from is $225. So we just need a consensus of the board that these two applications are approved.
Questions, comments? I have one question for you, Teresa. Do you have we have it written in concrete that if you've already purchased a sign, you can't then
Yes, sir,
apply
that's
for
part
it?
of the policies.
Right.
Yeah.
Just want to make sure we have it in writing. It just,
Mr. President,
yes. we're gonna-
comment please. And I understand this right here, and my question is that, and it's not come up on us, but the people who buy property down or rent it or whatever they do to it, are they aware of what the procedure for applying for grants is my main thing. I'm sure if I owned a business and I know I could apply for a grant, I wouldn't, and I couldn't purchase the sign until I had it approved, I wouldn't do it. So I'm assuming that this individual didn't. And I look at it from trying to be fair with people. And I understand we got rules that we have to follow, and the rule, I'm going by it this time too, but I don't know if the Main Street would be to have a welcome package or something to the effect of these are, if you're applying for if you're in the CRA district and you're applying for something, this is the procedures you must follow if you're looking for a grant from the city. I just think that we need to afford that to our property owners or property renters or whatever you might call them. That's my only comment.
We had discussed with Mrs. McQueen about the signage ahead of time. So
Okay.
I don't know if because she was opening, she felt she absolutely had to go ahead and have her sign in order to open her business, or anyway, we included it, we presented it according to the policies of the board itself. We cannot recommend reimbursement. However, it is up to the discretion of the CRA board what would be included. If you want to, we will be presenting new policy or updates. The policy comes from 2002, and has been updated in 2011. We will be presenting updated policies to the city council, as some other things we're going to speak about in just a few minutes, because we feel that the policy itself is antiquated and not really in the most advantageous view of the participants. So,
I just want to comment on what Councilman Hayes said, and that is, I know Lisa and I have talked about this, and she does get out there and advertise the facade grant, and working on that booklet that covers all the grants, because remember, a lot of people know about the facade, they don't know about the other one, and we're developing a booklet to get that out to everybody. It's a great idea. But I will tell you, you know, having been in the military, I like rules too, but I also like to use a little discretion sometimes when somebody's gone out and spent that money to have a business here on Main Street and some technicality impedes it. I'm all for reimbursing the individual. That's my opinion.
Mr. President.
Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Fairclough.
We set a precedent several months ago when we denied a reimbursement. I see no reason to change that until we come up with a new procedure.
That's fine.
okay. Like I say, we will be presenting a new, some policy updates in our next workshop to the city council. And that way we can get their viewpoint and bring them back to the CRA board as to what needs to be included and to what degree the reimbursement will be. Ms. McQueen submitted for $1,000 worth of expenditures, and viable, we only come up with the 450, which is the 225.
Commissioner Bowles, you have a
Just a kind of, because you're talking about policy updates, one item, and I think this has been discussed in the past, but what you have here is the differential between an owner and a tenant. And so the tenant's application was frankly exceptionally modest in the context of having $10,000 available for reimbursable funds. And you could really categorize most of their items as somewhat kind of transient or temporary improvements to the facade. And you'll note this is kind of a lovely 1970s flagstone addition to downtown that's probably maybe getting close to reaching its useful life cycle. And so there may be some discussion as you go through those policy updates for it maybe a bit of a bitter pill to swallow at the outset, but offering up a grant that's a non-match grant for the very basic kind of core things that need to be done to get the last few buildings that are out there brought up to some aesthetic standard that we might find more acceptable and more encouraging of development in the downtown district. So for awnings or for returning to a more traditional facade, those types of items, I think you might then have better participation from the property owners in these types of particular circumstances, because I think that's part of the problem here, is that you had a tenant who's coming in, who's attempting to open a business and make a grant application at the same time, and you can't really afford to wait for your signage as your governmental grant application works its way through the necessary process for approval. So just something to chew on as y'all look at those updates is maybe for a temporary period of time, a non-match grant that says, look, we'll give you whatever the policy says it should be, 2,000, 5,000, to just go in there and do some of these really kind of these core critical things that will get those last few buildings kind of up to a standard that may help kind of move the district forward. Thank you, sir.
Those will be applied for under the building code. That is, the building code grant will be, there will be availability, or should be availability for no match grants, and also as it extends on further up, would be match grants. Like if your building code is going to be $10,000 to build it, bring it into code, maybe a match grant at that. But it was suggested when the master plan was going that up to $5,000 would be a no match grant.
I'm just going to shut up then. That's excellent.
Okay.
Okay. I would like to, your homework, just to
So do we have a consensus to approve
I'm sorry.
the facade grants?
Okay, they're all, okay. Now, I would like to speak on, just a moment on the different grants, and also come back to a pre-approved facade grant that y'all have approved already. In your booklet, I just pulled out a couple of sheets out of it. You have your mixed-use residential commercial development incentive, which carries a project minimum of 25. It's your homework I just handed you. Okay, that's a $25,000 minimum project. Your asbestos mitigation grant, your building code compliance upgrade grant, your commercial investor property development incentive, your facade and building improvement grant. Now, those 4 grants, the asbestos, the building code, the commercial investor, and the facade, are doable for your CRA as it is now. Your CRA Grants Improvement Board feels that they can adequately help with the review and advisement on those particular grants. Your CRA partnership incentive, your low-interest CRA development loans are sort of out of their scale of expertise and would probably be better for a different type of analysis and advisement for the board. Your CRA leasing incentives, CRA doesn't own any property, so that is not pertinent at this time. But I would, on the 4 that you can go with as the small amounts, your asbestos mitigation, that has $30,000 allotted to it, which that would probably offer one property owner a feasible grant in that particular area. This would be very difficult because once you come into being evaluated with asbestos, it's extremely expensive. So this one, please give careful consideration when you're reviewing and giving your desires of how you wish this particular grant to be facilitated. That's the homework. Your building...
Let me stop you there. Homework for a workshop or for a meeting?
Well, since the CRA, if that has a workshop, would be great. You could schedule a workshop for that, or this will actually be discussed in depth with the city council at the council's workshop.
And that's what I was asking, for city council workshop.
City council workshop.
Okay.
If you wish to bring it, that way you'll have a narrowed down so that you can bring it to the CRA and y'all have the workshop. Your building code upgrade, you have $30,000 allotted in that. The submittal of this into the master plan, or the insertion of it, was intended for, like I say, $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 no match grants, and with larger sums to be at a 50% match. Currently, there's only $30,000 allotted in there. The board may wish to address that differently. You have your facade building and improvement grants, which is what we've normally done for the past decade. And those, other than a few tweaking of your policies, seems to work well. You have a $50,000 allotted from your budget in that, and we are nearing that figure at this time. Your commercial investor property development, come back one page. This is for potential commercial investors who want to engage into the CRA community. And it reaches out to attempting 18-hour days within the downtown district. And it can be residential, commercial, restaurant property, grocery stores, or someone who wants to build or develop and offer services in our area. We recently approved Alex Barthay for a facade grant. It was for 2 buildings. Over here, it was the old lodge, the old C's building. Everybody familiar with the building we're talking about? Unfortunately, your photos are left in my office. They were to improve the main building, and they were to improve the small building to the rear. During the initial demolition of the undesired pieces of the building, the stuff they had to remove in order to get their facade in. The smaller building was more deteriorated than it was feasible to keep. So it is going to have to be completely demoed and taken down. With that, he had received his original estimate for that particular building was about $33,000, of which he had the $10,000 matching. If the board is desirous, would it not be feasible to roll that over into the commercial investor property development incentive? You've already obligated $10,000 for the main building. You obligated $10,000 to the rear building. So if you're going to unify it and it's going to become one building, is it beyond thoughts to have the facade and then have the actual development of the building itself? Or the possibilities of encompassing two particular incentives for this massive development of commercial property in the downtown area? So I'm going to leave that with your thoughts, and we will be back next month in order to hear what you have to say on it.
All right. Thank you, Teresa.
Mhm.
At this time, I'll take any comments from the public. Anybody from the public would like to come up and speak to the CRA commissioners? Come on up and identify yourself, please.
Ken Nielsen, Crestview Community TV, 3162 APLIN Road. I'd like you to define for me Wi-Fi. When you say Wi-Fi, are we talking we can take our cell phone and just check our email? Are we talking high-speed Wi-Fi where you can actually do something? And that's just my question.
I would assume high.
And there is a
high-speed
difference. Believe me.
Okay. I'm looking at high-speed Wi-Fi that people can use more than just telephone. That's what I'm looking at.
Yeah.
Okay?
That's what I'd like to see.
All right, thank you. Any other comments?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
just a
go
question.
ahead.
Why is the CRA policies, why are they going to a city council workshop? Just trying to learn the ropes here. She said you were going to schedule a city council workshop to discuss these potential CRA policies and then bring them here for further discussion. That's the one. I think that might be a bit boring for you gentlemen who have to go through it twice. So maybe there was a reason.
The policies for the board itself, the grant board itself, it's a city council board.
But
So
but
the
it's been
policy-
CRA money, right? Not city money.
Yeah, it's,
Okay. Just a curious twist there. I don't know how you would really.
Well,
The CRA council really wouldn't sit.
I certainly don't want it twice.
Well, right, but I think it's probably incumbent on CRA policy changes to come before the CRA and not to come before the city council.
Okay. It's the board policies that we will be discussing with the city council. The CRA Improvements Board is a city council board. It's appointed by city council, and it answers to, it's directed to facilitate the services to the CRA board, but it is controlled by the council board. Those are the policies that will be discussed in the workshop, is how if they want us to provide different avenues or different options, we have to get permission from the council to be able to present it to the CRA.
Interesting jurisdictional, perhaps bordering on territorial, but I'll leave that to the city council to sort out.
That's ready. Let's go.
All right, no further remarks. It's adjourned. Thank you all for coming.